Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make a YTB Fatt tutorial in a very nice dark aesthetic. Before we get into the video guys, of course I'd like to wish you all a happy new year. Thank you for all the support you've shown me in 2023, and I am going to be coming back much better, much harder now that I've had a nice little Christmas break. But I'm in the middle of exams, so I won't experiment too much until January's over. But with all that being said, all the support is always appreciated, and now let's just go straight into the video. So, first thing I want to know about this YTB beat, as you can see, I'm doing this at 150 BPM in a scale of E minor, and the first preset is this big section brass preset from Expand 2. And one thing about YTB Fatt, his beats always include these very dark horns, and from the pattern you can see, we do start off with that E and going through a C to a B, back into a C, and repeat this of course multiple times over, but the only bit of variation is we take it down to a nice little A at the end of every 4 bar, just because dark tone being set, very big brass making that kind of wave. And with all that being said, this is what the main melody sounds like. As for the effects on the brass, it's pretty simple. Got an EQ cutting off a lot of the lows and just ducking to mids and raising highs. And then I got a low amount of Valhalla vintage verb just to add some ambience to the sound. And as we can see, I stereo separated it 25% just to add a bit of width to the headphones to make the brass section sound even bigger. And the next sound I've got is a bell preset, which is that nice tubular bell, and you can get it for free in my kit. Find the link in the description alongside a bunch of free drum kits. But this is the sound we are using. And of course with the YTB Fatt beat, all I had to do was let that bell pattern follow those root notes. So as you can see, we go from an E into that C, but then we go E, C into that A again, just to add a nice little bit of variation. And that's really it for the bell. So this is what it sounds like. With the effects again, very simple, an EQ cutting all my lows, and then some Valhalla vintage verb just to add a bit more reverb to the sound. And as you can hear, that brass and the bell together really creates a nice epic tone for the beat. And then next up, I got myself another instance of Expand 2 using the soft legato strings preset from the strings bank. And as you can see, again, very simple and straightforward. All I did was follow the same melody as the brass, and that was it. And now this is what the strings sound like. As for the effects, all I did was get an EQ cutting my lows, and some Portal of course, because that was definitely not sounding like a string. I love the granular effect from Portal, really gives it that evil kind of tone that we're looking for, and I'm using this preset called Space Signals. Then I use Fruity Powermatic just to get the sound moving left and right a bit, and last but not least, again some more Valhalla vintage verb to drown the sound out. But then, for another bit of variation, I got myself an instance of the piano V3 using this preset called the German Classical Clean, and to create a nice little top line, all I did was get this E, then I took it up an entire octave, and as you can see, go into the C, take it down an octave, B, go up an octave, C, again, up an octave, and then down an octave. So all I really do, if you look again, I'm just following the root notes from the brass, but I'm just playing it at different octaves. That's pretty much key for these melodies, especially when you make these YTB, or let's say real Boston Richie kind of stuff. Play with the octaves, keep those same semitone apart notes, giving that dark kind of vibe, and that's all you really need. But then, as you can see, I just copy and pasted this pattern over here, and then I also clicked Alt-R and played with the velocity tab, just to randomize the velocity a bit. And without further ado, this is what the keys sound like. As for the effects on this joint, I got myself another EQ cutting my lows off, some Portal again with a different preset called the Phenotype, some Soothe 2 as well just to compress all them harsh frequencies, then some Delay 3, as you can hear, just to add a lot more echo, making the sound much more full, and of course some Valhalla vintage verb because we need some ambience. And as you can see, I started separated 64% just to widen it within the headphones. Final sound, I got myself a preset called the Gardner at Night V2 from Analog Lab 5, and it's a very nice, dark and grimy bass, and simple as that, following my root notes yet again. And with all that being said, this is what the full sample for YTB Fatt sounds like. And there we have it, that bass providing that extra fullness. But now we're moving into the drums, and before we get into it, just remember all these sounds are from my free essential kit. Found link in the description in my Instagram, so go grab that. But now let's just move on. So the first sound I'm using is a nice little clap, and as you can see, very simple clap, hit on the third measure of every beat. However, I do insert these 2 extra claps to add a bit more bounce. And then next up, we got ourselves a hi-hat, and it's a pretty simple pattern because we don't want to have it too crazy with all that shit going on. Because we don't want to have it too crazy with all that stuff going on in the main melody. But as you can see, nice little simple pattern, and all I did was click the magnet tool, go into half step, then I created this nice little half step roll, place this note down a few semitones, got myself a normal step roll, half step roll again, and then another note down a few semitones. And that's really it, pretty straightforward, and we're using this dope hi-hat for my kit, which I really like to use for these beats. And then once I copy and pasted that 4-bar over, this is what the hi-hat and the clap sound like. But next up, we're moving on to the 808s, and as you can see, we got ourselves a spins 808 from the kit, but I just messed around with the out knob and I messed around with the boost just to make it hit a bit harder. And as you can see, pretty much just following those nice little root notes the whole way through, including that A, and then copy and paste that 4-bar over again. For the kick, all I do is get myself a nice little rack kick, and I just place it on the same parts where the 808s are hitting. So without further ado, this is what the 808 and the kick sound like. But now for the final components, which are the perks. First one being this nice little Southside perk I've got going here. As you can hear, this is what it sounds like. And the pattern I've got is pretty simple. It comes at the very end of these 2 bars over here, and then all I did was repeat it again, another 4-bar. And then for the next perk, I got myself the Sluger perk sounding like this. And all I did was place it towards the second half of each 4-bar, as you can see over here, just to add some variation in the bounce. And as well as that, from hearing this, I panned it left and right a bit just to add some variation, making it sound a bit nicer. But now, my people, with all that being said, this is what a full beat for YTB Fatt sounds like. And now looking at the structure of the beat, first of all, we started off with a beautiful 8-bar, which is the introduction. Looking over here, we got the brass, we got that piano with the bass line, and that bell just came in halfway just to build it up a bit more. But then looking at the main chorus, as you can see, all I did was start off with that brass, that nice little piano, and all these essential drums with this one perk. But for the second 8-bar, I introduced the next perk alongside the bells to make it hit a bit harder and add some variation. And now looking at the verse section, which is compiled of 3 8-bars in total, we start off with a nice little brass alongside the bell, but as you can see, I have the drums come in a bit later to add a bit of an effective drop. And then coming into the second 8-bar, I then reintroduce that kick. I now introduce that nice little string with a grainy pattern alongside one of the perks. And then for the final 8-bar, this is what I like to call the pre-hook or the pre-chorus, because it's that 8-bar that really just builds up into that hook. So we want to make it very dramatic, and the way I do that is by stripping away all my drums. Now reintroduce that bass line. Guys, there you have it. That's how you make a YTB Fatt beat. Pretty simple, straightforward, but I hope it's been an effective tutorial for you guys. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for all the support. We are pushing for 2K, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.